gardening tips. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about wrapping up the garden, what's been happening in the last month and a half, some things that have been changing with the vegetables and herbs and all sorts of kind of fun stuff. So why don't you follow me this way. This is one of my welcoming beds. This is all flowers. This is a mixed hodgepodge of things. I use my mother's influence throughout this. This plant I'm particularly proud of. This is called the sedum plant, and it is just massive. In the fall, it's going to have flowers that kind of change from orange to red to brown. They're excellent in clippings for vase arrangements. Down here, we have a whole bunch of beautiful sunflowers. There's a gazillion of them, and they should not be planted all together, but a package was dropped, so we're just gonna see what happens. These are mammoth flowers. They grow this big, much bigger than me, and again, they're so much fun if you have kids. They attract bees and butterflies, and they're just awesome to put in your garden. They're so pretty. Here is one of my herb gardens. So we can see a lot of progress here. The oregano is just going nuts. There's thyme doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's folding over the edge. And here we have a big chive hedge. As you can see, they're starting to sprout purple flowers. This is something that we talked about a couple weeks ago. I do not cut the flowers off because I believe it really hurts the plant, and I really love this hedge-like look. But it does help to stop the flowers from spreading. So if you have an issue with chive not wanting to take over a whole garden, you might want to cut them back. I don't recommend it, but as you can see here, they're not growing anywhere out and they're not growing forward. This is a new addition to my garden this year. It was 2020, so why not? We're going to experiment a little bit. This is a little personal greenhouse. So what it does is that it's trapping light and it's warming up that greenhouse a lot warmer than it is outside. And in here I am growing some lettuce, all sorts of varieties in there. And if you've never grown lettuce in a garden before, oh my goodness. Once you pick it and put it into a salad and you eat that, it tastes like butter. It's just absolutely delicious. It melts in your mouth. Always try to do lettuce. I realize that lettuce has an issue with animals. A lot of animals love lettuce, especially baby sprouted. It's nice and soft. So this structure also helps keep some of them away. I've got a little friend, Mr. Woodchuck, who visits me every single year. It is a gameplay of who wins every year. So I up my game a little bit. So far, so good. He has not eaten anything that's been underneath a dome. So we'll keep pushing along with that. Next, we have one of my big perennial gardens. There's still holes. Again, it's May. We have plenty of time to fill stuff up, but there's a lot of life sprouting out. We talked about week one, catmint, and as I promised, there are purple flowers now sprouting from it. It's really pretty, it's big and bushy, and again, you can't kill this thing. It's virtually impossible. So one of my favorite flowers ever, it is named the worst name possible. It is called spiderwort. I don't know why anybody named it that way, except that some of the petals do resemble a spider, but it is such a gorgeous plant. And it is just bloomed back. It almost looks like a little purple orchid. It's delicate, it's pretty. Spiderwort is hardy, it's gonna come back every year and it's gonna get bigger and bigger. So if you can find one of those in a greenhouse this year, snap it up, because they're not always easy to find. Go back to talking about some tomatoes. So I have two types of tomatoes here. I cheated a little bit. These were grown in a greenhouse. It is just too cold out, so that's why they're a little bit bigger. This is called a beefsteak tomato. And these are great. A lot of people love doing Roma tomatoes, and they are delicious, but there's nothing like looking at a huge red beefsteak tomato on a vine in the middle of the summer. You just pick it off, you just eat it right off the vine. It's delicious. This is a cherry tomato plant. And you can right off the bat notice some differences here. The stems, for one thing, they're a lot thicker, and the plant itself is a lot shorter, and there's a reason for that. These are going to grow bunches of small cherry tomatoes, and throughout the summer it gets pretty heavy. And the plant fixes itself and sustains itself by growing closer to the ground and wider stems. And they, again, are something you put in the garden and you pop in your mouth when they're ready. They are delicious. So once again, we have nasturtiums lining the sides. And another favorite of mine, these are the beginnings of poppies, and poppies are so pretty in New England. They come in reds and oranges and peaches, whites, all sorts of beautiful colors. I've seen a few of those around in greenhouses already. So again, if you see them, snap them up. They're really pretty. They come back every year. They're a staple in my garden. So over here, we have some hydrangeas coming up. I just want to tell you a little tip about hydrangeas. So these are pretty old. These are about 5-6 years old. And one thing about them is that they love water. If you notice from last year, the hydrangeas are blooming everywhere, and that's because we had so much water. One thing is, if you're planting them this year, here's my tip for you. Water it, water it, water it. If in the fall it looks like it's died, don't get upset. All you really want the hydrangea plant to do on its first year of planting is to root itself in the ground. Once it roots itself, you're good to go. It does, of course, like water, but I have a whole bunch of hydrangeas growing around the house that I never water, and they come back beautifully every year. So you want to hope for that spring rain when everybody gets upset about it, but it does your garden good. Over here we have another flower bed. This is another big one. We have a lot of catmint in here. The scabious is doing well. Again, lining the beds with nasturtiums. Our Gerber daisies are doing beautifully. And I had a couple of thoughts about people who are social distancing, and if you're lonely, I had a couple of fun ideas for you if you wanted to do something nice for a friend and a way to kind of socialize together. One way is to go back to our friends, the sunflowers. Plant a couple in your house, put them in a little pot, write a little note, and put it on somebody's doorstep. It's sure to cheer them up. It's a wonderful little gift right now. It's so simple, and it's just a nice way to tell somebody that you're thinking of them. I actually have a friend who, through flowers, sent me a card yesterday, and she sent me some of her seeds, which she gave me silver dollars. Really cool tree. It actually grows up, and it has silver-like petals, and wisteria. And I just thought that this was the absolute nicest thing to do. I mean, what a nice way to share your garden. A third way you can go about it is if you have a larger plant, like say this, and you don't really want it in your bed, split it apart carefully. Last week I showed you how to split a plant apart a little bit. Put it in a nice pot and give it to someone and tell them that you wanted to share your garden with them. It's a beautiful gift. I have several plants in there from my mother's friends, from my mother's garden. It's just a really nice way to think about somebody and appreciate them. Next we have this bed over here, which I'm also getting very excited about. Again, we have the herb garden growing back. I've planted the rosemary, replanted rosemary. These chives are nice and healthy. If you don't want to do a big bag like that, this is another great idea. This is kind of a potting situation. There's lavender on top. There is a lot of thyme. There is parsley. Again, if you have problems with rabbits, these kind of things are great. You could just put them in your basement every year and bring them back out. A lot of this stuff actually grew back on its own. The thyme grew back on its own, and lavender grew back on its own too. So this is a good thing, investment also. Right here, we have snap peas. I love snap peas. They are some of my greatest plants. The kids love to plant them as well. They're gonna grow straight up this trellis. So the thing about these peas, they're gonna be ripe around June, at the end of June. They do not like extreme heat. They just don't like it. So the rule is that these go into the ground unless there is a mound of snow this big. Put the peas in the ground. Nothing is going to happen to them. They'll just sit there and wait for the right time. If you plant these too late, they won't grow right, and it will get too hot too fast, and they won't produce any fruit. So it's better to put them in the ground. I did this right around March 14th. I believe I put them right in. So this is the other bed I have that welcomes people out. This is a beautiful specimen. This is black-eyed Susan. For whatever reason, this plant is loving this space. Loves it. It's huge. It hasn't even stopped growing yet for its foliage. So I'm hoping that this could go up to here maybe. And that's an extremely big black-eyed Susan. They are gonna bloom pretty much throughout the summer. They're gonna have yellow. They almost look like daisies, except the center of it is black. So this is another thing to put in your garden that's great. It's hardy. Real quick, I want to take you over here. There are certain flowers that are very special, and one of them is the clematis. So I met my husband through the family business. He is a florist as well. His parents were customers of my parents. And we met on Cinco de Mayo, and every year he gives me some sort of plant. And one of them that he likes to give a lot is clematis. I have this everywhere. It's growing up the trellises. It's beautiful. It also loves this time of year, so it's an appropriate present for somebody in May. This comes back every single year and it folds over. We have one flower that's really maturing, and that's just, I mean, it's gorgeous. That's beautiful, beautiful. These are great for going over gateways, again, trellises, archways, openings, something that it climbs up. If it doesn't have something to climb up, you can put in little pegs in a piece of wood and a string, and they will go right up and over. It's a perfect flower to plant. So I hope you had a great time. I've had a lot of fun, and these tips are great to keep with you. Try stuff out. This is the year to try things out. Try something new. See what it does in your garden. All gardens are different. You have different types of soils, sunlight, shading. Go out there and explore. Take some seeds and go crazy. I had so much fun with you, and this is the overview of what we've done together in the last 6 weeks. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful summer.